This with the People News. Alrighty, part 3, long video.
The driveway, but because we're moving, it's the doors. I'm not sure where the basement door was.
He doesn't want to have this interaction with you.
Correct.
So was he under arrest at that point?
At that point, as soon as he refused to allow for a safety pat down, he was under arrest for the obstructing.
So did you ever go to the ground with him?
After the firearm was secured, me and Melvin ended up going to the ground, continued to wrestle. When Moore got back down there, he kicked her in the chest, after which point I again struck him with a closed fist, trying to gain compliance, and eventually we was able to get him rolled over and handcuffed.
Melvin Sargent had never grabbed a gun.
No, he never actually touched it.
And what happened after you punched him in the face?
He lost balance a little bit, and that's when I was able to maneuver to where I was facing his back to get him.
All right, what happened after you got him to the ground?
We wrestled, trying to get him to roll over using empty hand control, wrist manipulation to get him to roll over.
Did you strike him again?
I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I did, but I don't technically remember.
Now, Melvin alleges that at some point during this time period that you stomped his hand or his wrist. Do you deny that?
Yeah, I never stomped anything.
Do you have any idea what could have injured his wrist or his hand during this encounter?
During this encounter, nothing. It could have been from before we got there, him hitting something, or had something happen at the jail out.
But you did punch him in the face?
Yes.
You never were aware of any injury to Melvin's wrist?
No.
Now, when you punched Melvin, were you wearing gloves?
I was.
Tell me about your gloves.
They're a cloth mixed with a type of UFC type knuckle covering to protect my knuckles and anything I come in contact with.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as exhibit number 5 for this deposition.
Yes.
Now, I'll represent to you that that is a screenshot that I took out of the video that we had in this case. Does that screenshot accurately represent your hand and your glove on the date of this incident?
It does.
I'll also show you what's been marked as exhibit number 6. I know this isn't the greatest quality, but that is a close-up of your glove, also from the same video.
It is.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
It's your testimony that these gloves, they have reinforced knuckles.
I wouldn't say they're reinforced. You know the UFC type gloves that have like a little padding? That's all it is. It's a thing, it's just, I broke my hand a few times, so I wear it so I don't do it again. And
You broke your hand a few times punching people
yes, it was in a fight.
while you were working as a police officer?
Yes.
Okay, so as a result of that, you bought these gloves?
Yes,
They have extra material at the knuckles.
they do. It's a padding type thing.
So that's to protect your knuckles when you're punching people.
It protects my knuckles, and if I make contact with another individual, it protects them from any type of like knuckle cut or anything.
So you're saying that when you punch somebody with that, it's actually going to feel better to them because you have that glove?
It should, yeah. Feels just like one of the UFC gloves, like little makeshift boxing gloves you wear when you're sparring.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the UFC gloves,
Yes.
and those are not UFC gloves.
No, they're not UFC, but that's what the padding feels like.
I mean, they'd have some problems in UFC if they use those gloves.
Okay. No, I'm just saying the gloves are that's what the padding feels like.
Do you still have the gloves?
I do not.
Why not?
When they got blood on them, I threw them away. I don't take anything that gets blood on back home to my house.
Did you buy another pair?
I did.
Do you still have it?
Those ones, no.
Now, those were not issue gloves.
Correct.
So that was just your private purchase.
Yes.
Did you get any sort of authorization from your employer to buy or wear those gloves?
I got them from, at the time when I bought them, Chief Deputy Bailey. I showed them to him. He said they were perfectly fine.
At any point, did your employer instruct you to no longer wear those gloves?
No.
But since you left the Mercer County Sheriff's Office, you've never worn them again?
No, because the policy down there is
Is what?
they don't allow any type of gloves.
In your job now, you don't find the occasion to punch people.
I probably will, but I haven't yet.
You said you threw those gloves away because they had blood on them, right?
Correct.
And that blood was Melvin Sargent's blood.
Not sure.
Well, they didn't have blood. The knuckles of your gloves did not have blood on them already upon your first arrival at Melvin Sargent's house.
Correct. My mouth was bleeding as well.
All right. Well, you punched Melvin Sargent, you said, in the face.
Yes, in the cheek.
All right, and he was bleeding.
I'm not 100% sure if he was or wasn't. I didn't notice any cuts or...
All right, so you have no idea if that's Melvin Sargent's blood.
Correct.
So you're saying it could be your own blood?
It could be.
On your knuckles?
Yes.
You didn't punch yourself, right?
No, I did not.
You punched Melvin Sargent?
Correct.
And it's your testimony here today under oath that you don't know whether or not he was bleeding?
Correct. I'm not 100%, no.
He was treated subsequently for lacerations inside his mouth. You have no idea how that could have occurred?
Inside of his mouth? No, I have no idea.
That's not from you punching him in the face?
It could be. I don't know.
You have no explanation for that?
No.
Did you ever see Melvin Sargent punch himself?
No.
Did you ever see him slam his head into your police cruiser or anything like that?
I know he kicked and thrashed around in the backseat of the cruiser quite a bit, but I never seen him physically punch himself.
You're not alleging that he injured himself?
Oh, no.
Whatever side it was,
Yeah.
other than the one punch to Melvin's face that you already testified about, did you ever strike him in the face again during this incident?
Yeah, while he was on the ground wrestling. After he had kicked Deputy Moore, causing her to fall backwards.
Is this before he was handcuffed?
Yes.
Okay. And how many additional times did you strike?
Just the two total. The one initial and the one on the ground. I didn't want to throw any more punches because I was afraid if I would, where I was on top of him and he was on the ground, his head would have bounced off the ground or something, caused undue harm. I didn't want to do that.
So, to the best of your recollection, it's your testimony that you punched Melvin twice that day.
Yes.
And are you positive that you didn't punch him any more times?
Correct.
Were your emotion levels up at this point?
No.
Were you angry?
Just fat and out of breath.
Then what'd you do?
We both stood up for maybe 5-10 seconds so we can collect me personally could collect my breath, and like I said, I just got done eating Thanksgiving dinner and I didn't want to throw up on the poor dude. And we collected ourselves and we was able to get him to stand up and walk him up towards my cruiser.
So you guys got him up and you put him in the police car, is that right?
Walked him up to the driveway and on the passenger side of my cruiser.
And then did you put him in the car?
Yeah, I put him in the seat, sat him down. His feet was still outside the cruiser. He refused to put his feet back into the cruiser. I told him multiple times to do it. He complained that his handcuffs was too tight. But prior to that, whenever he was handcuffed, it was with Deputy Moore's handcuffs, and I'd been training her, and I observed her do the pinky tight, which is where you could slide your whole finger inside the cuffs.
Who put the cuffs on?
She did.
All right. It's my understanding from reading your report that you guys put him in the back of the police cruiser and shut the door initially.
No.
No?
Not initially, no.
Take a look at the report. Let's see if we can clear this up. Okay, the next sentence you wrote in your report: after closing the passenger rear side door, Mr. Sargent began to kick the inside of my door, causing the door to begin to bow out.
Correct.
All right, that seems to imply to me, or to tell me, that you had closed the passenger rear side door.
When we first got to up there, he refused to get in and ended up having to force him into the vehicle to get his legs all the way in before we could shut it.
The point is you put him in the car and you closed the door.
After I had to force him in, yes.
All right, so you forced him in the rear passenger door and closed the rear passenger door.
Yes.
So he's inside the rear of the police cruiser.
Yes.
The door is closed.
Yes.
He's handcuffed.
Yes.
Behind his back.
Yes.
Then what happened?
I went to the opposite side to where his head was, opened the door, pulled out my OC spray, and advised him if he did not stop trying to kick the door, break the window, he would be pepper sprayed.
So you had the door closed, and then you opened that same door.
Opposite door.
All right. Are you sure it's the opposite door?
Yes, because his head was toward. I wasn't going to go down where he was kicking at.
All right. You wrote in your report, at this point, I opened the same door. Began to tell Mr. Sargent to calm down and stop kicking the door, or he would be sprayed with OC.
I won't go with that. It's going to be a typo. No.
All right. So you're saying your report is wrong.
On that sentence.
Why would you have written the same door in your report?
Considering this narrative was written quite a few hours later, and tired, wanting to go home, rushed it. It is a mistake.
Would it be fair to say that even a few hours after the incident, that your memory about the incident would have been more accurate in 2019 than it is here today in August of 2022?
My recollection, it's still pretty similar to it.
All right, so he's handcuffed behind his back, he's in the rear of the cruiser, he's kicking the inside of the door. You then you say, the driver's side passenger door, right?
Yes.
And then you do what?
Tell him if he doesn't stop, he will be pepper sprayed.
And then what happened?
He says, fucking do it, and started kicking the door again.
And then what happened?
Administered a short 3 to 5 second burst of OC spray.
So you sprayed him with pepper spray for 3 to 5 seconds?
Yes, which is what we were told.
Did you strike him at all?
No.
So at this point, you still hadn't talked to any witnesses?
No.
You closed him inside the rear of the police cruiser with pepper spray in his eyes?
It was, yes.
Were the windows rolled up?
It was cracked.
Cracked how long? How far?
I'd say enough to where if somebody had free hands, they'd be able to put their fingers through the tops of both.
And did it appear to you that Melvin was suffering from the pepper spray at that point?
He was in pain from it, but it was nothing that I hadn't seen or felt myself before.
But you didn't strike him at all in the rear of the police cruiser?
I did not strike, no.
Did Melvin attempt to strike you?
In the back of the cruiser, no. He attempted to spit.
All right. You didn't write anything in your report about him attempting to spit on you at any point, did you?
No.
But you did write in your report an allegation that Melvin had leaned back and kicked towards you, striking you in the chest.
Yes, this was after, if I'm thinking right, whenever we had to stop because he started to kick the door again as we was traveling.
All right, so you're saying that happened during the transport?
Yes.
Right. I don't think that exactly jives with your report, if you want to take a look at it.
I'll just say it looks like I probably just forgot where I was in the narrative when I was typing and posed them on separate sides. Looks like that one goes to the other paragraph.
Reading your report, you would agree with me that it says that this encounter took place before you left the scene.
Correct.
Because you described what happened, the allegations that you're trying to get him to calm down and stop kicking the door, and that he tried to kick you, and that you sprayed him with pepper spray, and then you describe Deputy Adair arrives on the scene with Trooper Rose.
Yes.
So the way you wrote the report, it sounds like this all happened at the scene before you left to transport Mr. Sargent.
Yes.
But you're telling me today that your testimony, that your report is inaccurate. Is that right?
That section, yes.
All right, I'm going to show you what has already been marked as exhibit number 2 for this deposition. Now, that is the criminal complaint that charged Melvin Sargent in this case.
Yes.
And that criminal complaint includes a narrative written by you, correct?
Yes, the same narrative.
And that's the same narrative, the same police report that we've been discussing.
Yes.
You included this same report, written in the same way, to the magistrate, I think it was Magistrate Dorsey, to review.
Yes.
And the magistrate did review this report, and it actually indicates that probable cause was found for the warrantless arrest of Melvin Sargent that day.
Yes.
Okay. And then Melvin Sargent was prosecuted pursuant to this criminal complaint.
Correct.
Okay. Would you agree with me that the report that you submitted to the magistrate as part of this criminal complaint was under oath?
Yes.
Okay. So you're telling me here today that there are these inaccuracies in your report, but you never informed the magistrate that there were inaccuracies in your report, did you?
I didn't notice them.
So you didn't notice the inaccuracies in your report until today, August of 2022?
Yes.
Okay, so he had been charged with 2 counts of battery on an officer, right?
Yes.
And then 1 count of obstruction.
Yes.
Now I take it the obstruction, I think you already testified, the obstruction was when you initially encountered him and tried to perform that safety check.
Yes.
He didn't initially, or he began to comply, but then pulled away.
Pulled away, yes. And
that was the obstruction.
that's the obstruction.
But you also had him charged using your report with 2 counts of battery on an officer.
Correct. Whenever he kicked more, and I got hit sometime. I don't know when it was.
Well, you wrote in your report that he had tried to kick you in the chest.
Yes.
But your report says that that happened at the scene.
Yes.
You're telling me now that that happened during transport.
I believe so, yes. That's what's making sense.
All right. I mean, you understand that you're under oath here today.
I do, yes.
All right. I'm not asking you to guess. I don't want you to guess if you don't remember. Okay. Do you remember whether or not the allegation of Melvin trying to kick you happened before you transported Melvin or during the transport?
That was during the transport.
You're positive?
Yes.
But that's not what's represented in your report.
Objection. That's an answer.
All right, I'll show you what's been marked as exhibit number 3, and that is a court order or a motion form indicating that the 2 charges of battery on an officer were dismissed by the court.
Correct.
Melvin Sargent was not convicted of those allegations or of those charges, was he?
Of the batteries, no.
All right, I'm going to show you the video that we have in this case. Alright, so that was 0 through about 32 seconds of that video.
Correct.
That shows you in the video, right?
Yes.
And you're placing Melvin Sargent in the rear of that police cruiser.
Correct.
You saw and you heard Melvin Sargent asking you to loosen his handcuffs.
Yes.
That section of the video, would you agree with me that it shows you engaging in a use of force against Melvin Sargent?
It does.
Would you also agree with me that that section of footage, 0 through 32 seconds, does not show Melvin Sargent kicking you in the chest?
Correct.
It does not show Melvin striking you in any way?
Correct.
What would you characterize as the nature of the force that you used? What did you do?
The push in, and while he was inside the vehicle, I held his head down with my right hand because he kept trying to come up, trying to spit on me.
And again, your report mentions nothing about Melvin trying to spit on you.
Correct.
So are you saying that you didn't strike him at all?
I never hit him in the back of the cruiser, no.
What we see in the first 30 seconds of this video, you're saying that no punches were thrown by you.
No, none.
You're just holding him down.
Yes. Holding him down, trying to talk to him, tell him to calm down, quit. As soon as we get to the office, we'll figure everything out.
All right. So looking at your report again, the use of force that you did engage in at this point, the first 30 seconds of the video, you didn't mention anything about that in your report.
No.
Melvin Sargent was handcuffed at this time.
Yes.
All right, let's continue to watch the video. We're at 32 seconds. I'm going to play it a little longer.
Bitch, quit. Bitch, no. Bitch, please.
All right, so I stopped at 55 seconds there. From the 30-second range to the 53-second range, would you agree with me that shows additional uses of force by you against Melvin Sargent?
From forcing him into the vehicle?
You tell me.
Yeah, from forcing him into the vehicle, and that was it. from holding his head down and me getting out and using vocal commands.
All right, did you use physical force on Melvin Sargent at this time?
Define physical force.
All right, let's play it again. For 30 seconds. This time we won't stop it.
Okay.
So that was part one. Well, let's call that part one. And as you can see, I'm dressed like I've been in court, and I have been in jury trial for the past 2 days. So I'm pretty exhausted. This is all I've gone through so far. But you're going to want to see part two, because if I recall correctly, and it was just last week, it gets even better. And the other police officers involved took their depositions as well. So you will want to see part two.
There you go. Y'all decide. These We the People News.